April is Autism Awareness Month, but before you post that puzzle piece or light it up blue, here are a few things you should know about the autistic community so you don't make any faux pas. Stay tuned. Hi everybody, welcome back to Psy vs. Psy, where we talk about all things psychology. Now, it's that time of year again. No, not that time. No, not that. Come on, we're trying to have a serious video here. It's Autism Awareness Season, and depending on which organizations you follow, it's either this week, the day of April 2nd, or the full month of April. Really, get it together, guys. In any case, don't be surprised if you see an uptick in autism-related content during this time. Here at Psy vs. Psy, we're planning on a lot of autism content for April, so if that's what melts your butter, then make sure you're subscribed. Like many special interest and disability groups, there's a community around people who are diagnosed as autistic and their families. And there are do's and don'ts within those communities. As members of this community, we felt it was especially important for us to provide some insight into this world and some guidance on how to navigate these waters. Of course, all autistic people are different, and not everyone agrees on all of the things I'm going to say, but if you follow our tips, you're unlikely to offend anyone. So first up, let's talk about symbols. Puzzle pieces and lighting it up blue. Now, we've done a whole video on this topic, which we recommend you check out.
Shameless plug.
But the short version is that they are popularized by the charity Autism Speaks, which many autistic people don't like, and some even consider a hate group. While some people suggest lighting it up red instead, a safe bet to show your support is to avoid anything that might be infantilizing or childish, and instead use the gold infinity symbol for autism or the rainbow infinity symbol to represent neurodiversity in general, as discussed in our other video. Another big no-no is talking about autism using functioning labels, like high functioning or low functioning. It doesn't exactly make you feel great if you tell someone you're autistic and they say, hey, at least you're high functioning. It's been said that this kind of language minimizes the struggles of those who would be considered high functioning and minimizes the strengths of those who would be labeled as low functioning. So functioning labels, avoid at all costs. Instead, you could ask about an individual's support needs, or maybe acknowledge that you're glad they were comfortable enough to share their diagnosis and that you want to be supportive however you can. In my experience, the decision to share any kind of diagnosis is extremely personal and is not made lightly. And that leads us to our next faux pas, questioning someone's diagnosis. A common experience among autistics who share their diagnosis is that they will get a response along the lines of, really? You don't look autistic to me? Or, what? I don't believe you. First, there's no such thing as what an autistic person looks like. And second, there are many stereotypes of autism out there that do not represent many actual autistic people, especially among women and communities of color. And third, if the autistic person doesn't seem autistic, it's likely because they're good at something called masking, acting like you would expect them to act if they weren't autistic, but at great effort and personal expense so that non-autistic people will feel more comfortable around them. And by the way, you're welcome. If someone's choosing to share this part of their life with you, it's not a compliment to suggest that they're good at masking their autism and that you have your doubts. Next, it's generally accepted that autistic people prefer identity-first language. If you haven't seen our video on this, you're missing out, but basically, autistic people prefer to be called autistic people, as opposed to a label like person who has autism. Some have argued that putting the person first emphasizes their value as a person rather than highlighting their disability. But for the most part, autistic people have said, to hell with that, I can't imagine who I would even be if I wasn't autistic. It's an important part of who I am, and why would I ever want to separate it from myself like it's something to be ashamed of? So, rule of thumb, use autistic person. I know this seems pedantic, but yes, people do notice this stuff because it's been made a hot button issue. A few more things to keep in mind. There's been a shift over the last couple of years to talk about autism acceptance rather than awareness, since being aware of something doesn't get you very far. Instead, we should look to find ways that we can support autistic people. All autistic people are different and have different sensory needs. Some need certain sources of sensory stimulation for control of sensory inputs, while others are more sensitive to stimulation than average. such as lights and smells and sounds, and need to be able to minimize those things. By giving everybody more freedom and control over their environments, especially out in public, we can support autistic people. When someone shares that they're autistic, don't question their intelligence. Autism is not an intellectual disability, intelligence is not part of the diagnostic criteria, and autistics are overrepresented among some of the smartest and most visionary people on the planet. Not all autistic people are savants, nor are they all geniuses. I've got a longer video on autism and intelligence that I'll link to in the comments, but that's the 10-cent version. Knowing someone is autistic tells you nothing about their intelligence. Do find sources of information that highlight the varied experiences of autistic people. This is the best way to fight those stereotypes I was talking about earlier. One common hashtag is actually autistic that you can search for on social media and browse around for a few minutes. If you're the donating type, take some time to search how autistic individuals feel about an organization and why before you donate. Things to watch out for are low representation of autistic adults in the decision-making hierarchy, research looking for cures, autism genetic research. This one's a bit complicated, but research has shown that people are more willing to abort fetuses solely because they might be autistic, so the search for genetic markers of autism can be fraught with ethical issues. Also on the watch out for list is if the organization supports compliance-based treatments like applied behavioral analysis that have a complicated track record in terms of protecting the autistic person's sense of self. Now, we need to have a nuanced discussion at some point about all of these issues, but the goal of this video is the quick summary of how to play it safe. A safe option is to support self-advocacy groups. And remember that you don't have to just consider the national level. There may be local autism groups and support networks that you can support, and dollar for dollar will be much more meaningful. If you follow these tips, you're bound to impress the autistic people in your life. The good news is, if you've made it this far into the video, you clearly care about learning more about autism and the autistic community. And research has actually shown that people who have learned more about autism have reduced stigma about autistic people, and that means they're less likely to discriminate against autistic individuals. See, you're already making a difference. Share this video and you can help others become better informed. Consider subscribing for more content on autism and all things psychology. And until next time, keep thinking. Okay, now you can do your thing. Are you done? Okay, I'm done.